All right. So thanks for everyone joining for another Tech Talk. I'm Regina here with the Tech Academy, and today we actually have David Freiling, who's actually one of our graduates from a boot camp.
Mhm.
So he's just going to be talking about his journey and how their side project basically landed them their dream job. So thank you for being here, and go ahead and take it away.
Yeah. Thank you for having me. Hello, everybody. It's a pretty small group today, so if at any point you do want to stop, raise a hand, ask questions, or unmute, please go ahead and do that. I kind of structured it just enough to kind of keep things moving and share a few tips that I've learned along the way, as well as a little bit about how I got where I am. But like I said, please feel free to interrupt me at any time. And you can also connect with me on LinkedIn as well. I'll go ahead and share that in the chat. So if you do want to connect after this meeting, you can feel free to do that. So just kind of curious, I think people hopefully know how to use the raise hand feature. I'm curious as to who in here is already in maybe a boot camp. Could you maybe raise your hand just so I get an idea of kind of my audience today? So if you're currently in a boot camp, okay. At least couple people. Okay, cool. And then for those that are in it, what boot are you in? Tech Academy or another boot camp? You can put that in the chat, or you can unmute, whatever works best for you. Tech Academy, software developer program. Awesome. Okay. And then anybody else kind of thinking about or kind of leaning towards a move to a boot camp, or maybe already graduated from one? My question earlier wasn't specific enough. Well, hopefully, even if you're not, I can convince you to do that by the end of this. I think awesome. Spencer's also on the Tech Academy. DevOps are great. Yeah. Leaning against it because I'm already working full time. Yeah, I totally get you there. Yeah, so I'll kind of explain my journey. I love that I did the boot camp. I really do think it was one of the best decisions of my life. Awesome. Somebody else also finished the Tech Academy as well. Cool. Great. Yeah. So sorry, I was just reading the comments there. So yeah, that's awesome. I think it was great. I'll go ahead and go into myself a little bit. And the whole purpose of this is to just kind of like let you all know that the path is not often like very linear. Even this little picture here doesn't really do it justice. So I went straight from high school into undergrad and grad school with the intentions of being a psychologist. I waffled in high school about going into engineering or psychology. Sounds like those aren't even related, right? But I ended up going the psychology route, and I wanted to be a clinical psychologist. Things shifted. I was thinking more counseling, psychologist, PhD, whatever. Didn't get into any programs. Got into some master's programs for master's level psychology, so you can still practice therapy as a master's level counselor. And so I was like, I'll do that, and then maybe move into a PhD program after I get my master's. And got into the master's program. I was like, yeah, I'm not doing a PhD. No way. Too much writing, too much craziness. Just not my cup of tea. But I was like, I guess I can do this therapist thing. So I graduated, did some work in like a school because I was waiting to get my license for like a year. So I did some stuff there. One thing led to another. I was working as a school-based therapist, did some private practice work, and I was like, I'm not really digging this therapist thing. What can I do? And one of the schools that I was working for opened up a school counselor position. So I made that move into be a school counselor, which, if nothing else, was fantastic for my family. School hours are great. And I had a 3-year-old and another kid on the way. So that was really appealing to me. So I went into that. Did that for about 5 years. And I think in about 3.5 years in, I was like, okay, it wasn't just the therapy thing. I really need something a little different. So we moved to Central Ohio, and just kind of a relocation thing for my family. And I became a plumber, actually, of all things. I was like, you know what? My dad was an electrician when I was growing up. I got familiarity with the trades. I'm going to do that. I did that for a hot minute and quickly realized that 30-some-year-old probably shouldn't start, plumbing. Maybe that's something I should have done when I was 20. So I did move into that. And I think it was actually at this point that the seed for for technology and software development actually got planted. There was an apprenticeship program that I applied to in Central Ohio where they paid for a boot camp. The company would hire you on contract for a year at a pretty good salary. You could launch into that. And that was something that just really piqued my interest. I applied for it, did not get it. Just, if you've ever felt that sense of disappointment, I've been there with you. And this was one of those things too, where I think I was like, there's only 10 applicants and they were going to take 5. So I had a 50-50 chance of getting in. I still didn't get in. So, this isn't one of those where there were like 100 people when they were looking for one person. So it was just, it was pretty disheartening. But I think I thought at that moment, I was like, you know what, I think I want to do this at some point. This is something I want to do, but I need to make money. So I went into AV installation while I looked for a school counseling position. I figured I'd get back into school counseling just to kind of like get that lifestyle back while I kind of figured out what I want to do with my life. So I did that. So again, nothing linear here, right? I'm all over the place. And then COVID hit, and somebody I went to worked with at the school went to the Tech Academy and finished their software development program. And I spoke really highly of it. And it was all online. It was self-paced, which is great because I have a full-time job. I have 2 kids, a wife. Like I need to be able to have that kind of flexibility in my life. And then another thing that kind of inspired me to do it is there were some like software ideas I was starting to develop that were related to my work. And I kind of zeroed in on one in particular where I wanted to build like a course request portal for students that were high school students taking college courses. We really didn't have anything like that. We were using like literally PDFs and like emails, and it's just a mess. They still use that. And there's a lot of like failure points, a lot of potential for issues. Pretty much every semester we always had something. So at that point, I decided to take on the Tech Academy and make that happen and build that piece of software. And so that's kind of what led me into it. And it was, like I said, at the very beginning, seriously, one of the best decisions I ever made in my life. So I'm going to go really quick through this, but today I just want to talk about the advantages, 3 reasons that I think it's great to have a side project no matter where you are in your like tech journey. If you're just considering you finished a program or you're in the middle of a program, I think a side project is awesome. Some real quick stuff on how to do it, how maybe I did it, if that might benefit you, and then what maybe your side project might be, as well as what mine was. So the why is really easy. There's 3 main things you get out of it. No matter what you learn so much with a side project. And I think it helps with learning. You get to create something, which if you're kind of a creative type or you like to have something that you can do on your own, that is super cool. And I do think it can help you land a job. And I'll kind of explain more of that in a second. The learning piece is huge. You can learn new stuff that maybe you're not getting access to in your program, or you can reinforce stuff that you are learning. And I'll talk a little bit about this later, but when I was going through the program, I would finish like an HTML course, CSS, and then I would build that iteration or proof of concept of my side project. And then I would finish, and I would kind of reinforce everything I just learned, right? So I wasn't jumping into JavaScript and forgetting everything else. Then when I finished JavaScript, I did something else there. SQL, finished that course, building a proof of concept there. And then when I finished the program as a whole, I built an MVP, a minimum viable product of my web app. So each time it just helped, and I get to learn so much stuff that was taught at the Tech Academy, stuff that was touched on, stuff that wasn't touched on. It's just an excellent learning tool. And I figured if nothing else happens with my side project, I at least have that. And I was very, very right on that. I feel like I'm kind of a creative type. I love being able to solve a real world problem. A lot of creative freedom and expression goes into this. No matter what you're doing, if you're doing schoolwork or working for somebody else, you're kind of building their thing, right? You're building their idea. But this is one that you get to build your idea. You have something here and you get to actually make it come to life, which is a super, super cool feeling. And there's nothing else quite like it. And then landing a job. So, it's not a overstatement or anything like that. I'm not being hyperbolic when I say that. I really do think my side project helped me land the job that I currently have, which I haven't really said. I guess I should speak out as to what that is. But I work as a software developer for a company out in Pennsylvania, consulting firm. And I would help with one of their clients' projects, work with a senior dev there on a .NET C# MVC project. It's like a multi-channel e-commerce accounting and analytics tool that I help work on. I get access to exposure to all kinds of things, APIs, integrations, Everything from the SQL database I'm working in 1 second, I'm working in JavaScript and jQuery the next second, managing the look of the web application. So super cool stuff. The guys that I work for are fantastic. There's actually guys and gal. There's actually a gal as well. And they're all awesome. My hours are phenomenal. And as a parent, that is amazing because I can flex a lot of things. I just want the work to get done. And I'm technically a subcontractor, and that may not appeal to a lot of people. Personally, I really like that. Maybe it harkens back to my private practice days. I have an LLC. I put the money through, saves me on taxes. I like managing that piece of my life. Maybe if you don't, that's not your thing, but I really enjoy that. And it's really, really super cool. So I really think it helped stand out because when you're first starting out and you don't have prior coding experience, the hardest thing in this industry is proving that you have that skill set, that you can do it, right? That's what experience gives you, that first job, that elusive first job that everybody gets. The advantage of having that is they say, okay, well, now you can do this. I mean, your other jobs show your soft skills and your employability, but this one, first job as a programmer shows your ability to be a programmer and to function. And the side project kind of demonstrates that for you. It kind of gives you create your own first job because you're building a real life project that solves a real life problem where you're coding and you're making a viable working product. And so it just helps you do that. It shows initiative as well, right? So it shows that you'll go a little bit above and beyond, that you're not intimidated by taking on new things because as a developer, anybody that's been doing this for even 2 seconds knows you're going to be learning stuff constantly and you're never going to know everything. And it helps you stand out among the crowd. So I think that it really did help me with my situation, and I think it helps other people as well. I've seen some other tech talks on here actually about side projects, and they've said the same thing. This one's going to be pretty high level. I'm not going to go too much in depth here, but the biggest points to hit when you're working on a side project is planning. I think planning and coding in general is really, really important. I kind of keep relearning that lesson. I want to just get to the keyboard and start going and feel like a hacker, right? And just code and code. And that's all well and good. The problem is that you can really code yourself into a hole real fast. And so it's really important to plan stuff out, right? Because really all code is doing is trying to just do something, solve a problem. You're giving instructions to the computer to carry out a certain function. At the end of the day, it's all it does. And so if you can understand that high level first and know what your end goal is and what you want the code to do, the rest is a Stack Overflow, form away. You can look it up, you can figure it out, but you just have to know where you're heading first and exactly what pieces need to get you there. And so plan and learn. These are obviously this stuff all meshes together, but I think making a plan. So I sat down, planned out my project. And I have all kinds of Lucidchart things, all kinds of things, the flow of the project or the application, like the user flow, all that kind of stuff. I planned out, even mapped out certain features and how they integrate from database all the way to user and back again, kind of how that data moves around. I felt like that stuff was all helpful. The learning, fill in any gaps in knowledge that you're going to have, and you're always going to have them. That's what the boot camp did for me, but also even as I left the boot camp, there were still some things I needed to learn, and I'd go figure those out and then lay down the code. Small chunks, any kind of big thing, you're going to want to take small chunks at a time. Do not try to just build it outright. You will all of a sudden be overwhelmed and you'll give up on your project. So you got to break into small chunks and then come back to the plan because it's going to change. You're like, oh, okay, now that I did this isn't going to work. And you just keep revisiting that over and over. It's just a cycle. And then I'm not going to really go over this a whole lot, but the software development life cycle for a side project, try to make it as identical to how a real project would work, because then you can put that on a resume as well. And then when you talk in an interview, you can say, look, I had this idea stage, a design stage versus development stage, and then I launched it. And I'll talk a little bit more about this later, but always try to follow best practice stuff. On your own side project, it's a little bit tedious. It adds a little extra work, but I think it'll help in a job interview as well as it just reinforces good habits. So some tips for this. This keep it simple, stupid. I saw this in Junkyard Wars back on TLC 20 years ago, but I just always remember it. The keep it simple, stupid thing is just this. I had to keep reminding myself. It was very easy for me to be like, I want my project to have all these cool features, and you see Google or Facebook or Instagram have all these neat features. You're not going to get those. Certainly not in iteration 1. So that minimum viable product, the MVP, is your focus. What does it need to do to just be to exist so people can actually use it? What's its minimum functionality? And if you focus on that, it starts to become a lot more attainable, and it gives you a fantastic foundation to add features later. It is an agile thing. Thank you, John. It is absolutely an agile thing. So that's how the whole entire agile process is based on that, right? You just go through, get something right to production as fast as you can that works, and then just start iterating live with continuous improvement and development. So thank you, great point. And focus. Don't be afraid to focus. It's really easy, and myself personally, and I'm sure a lot of you that have looked into coding, you're kind of like all over the place. Like, what do I do? Like, it'd be cool to learn Python. It'd be cool to learn C#. I want to learn Java. I want to know all of it. I want to be able to do all of it. And the reality is you can't, at least not right away. So I would say don't be afraid to focus. I actually got done with the boot camp a little early. I was just obsessed and like coded all the time. So I knocked it out actually pretty fast. And Tech Academy is great. They're like, hey, you bought this time, you can squeeze in another thing. So I did the C#.NET course. I didn't do the full software development, and I had time to finish to add on the Python project. And Python does seem very interesting to me. So it was very tempting, but I thought I have like a certain idea of how my project can work. I have an understanding of a full stack web app. I'm just going to go with it. I'm just going to take a little bit of a deeper dive and just dive into it. I can learn Python later. And I know that, the frugal part of my brain is like, dude, you just wasted all that money. But like, it wasn't, I got what I needed from the program, and I wasn't afraid to just take a deeper dive. And I think it actually probably helped because I gained confidence and more skills in at least a couple languages versus trying to tackle tons and kind of losing my way. Planning, I keep saying this, but I think planning is just so important as part of software development. Is one of the most important things that we often forget. We just want to get code down, but I think planning is really important. Chunking it, I already mentioned this, break things into small problems because some of the problems in this will make your head hurt. Commit, I did set deadlines for myself. I set up sprints going back to Agile, that kind of Scrum approach. I had sprints that I would set up in Azure DevOps. I would, pull my code, or I would branch off my code. I'm the only one working on it, but I still did this just as practice, pushed it up, pulled, did a pull request, merged it on in. And I just had deadlines. Did I meet all of them? I didn't, but at least I set them and it kept me moving and kept my project getting done versus if I didn't, which is actually after I finished my MVP where I'm at. I'm in this like weird fuzzy area where I don't have deadlines and it's just kind of petering, and I'll get to that later. But I think that deadline and the commitment is really important. And then best practice, I said this too, just try to do the best practice. I think it's just good habit building, and it's going to look good on an interview. So if you do have time to develop a couple unit tests for your side project, I would recommend doing that. It's a skill you can kind of learn. It's something you can talk about when you meet with a potential employer. How I did it, same thing I just showed you earlier. I just told you what I did, and it worked for me. And again, going back to John's point, it is an agile thing. So it's just that entire agile project management framework. So what's this project? I already told you a little bit. The project was a course request portal. So I just did like a quick concept in PowerPoint, I think. I met with some of the end users at Columbus State, and we sat down and talked about it, and they thought it sounded fine. And it just kind of like, these are actual screenshots from this. So this is kind of was the idea. Then I did this, this second one over here was my HTML CSS. So after I finished the HTML CSS course at Tech Academy, I jumped into building this. It was like 18 or 20 pages. It was just craziness, but it's just links jumping. It's got all the styling. I did common styling across the pages. And so that was kind of a cool thing and kind of gave me a sense of how the structure of the website would be. Then JavaScript, I had heard about single page applications and stuff like that. And so I was like, oh, maybe I'll try to just make one HTML document and I'll have JavaScript do all the DOM manipulation and just render everything dynamically and super fast. So that I just kind of and in order to do that, I need a little bit of a cleaner, simpler look for my website. So I kind of redesigned it a little bit. I also did like a mobile first responsive design where I had it so that it could work either on a mobile, because I'm talking about students using this, right? And we all know students are going to use their phone a lot. So I just kind of went, that was just kind of a cool little proof of concept. It was a really fun project to do. JavaScript was really fun to work with, and that DOM manipulation was powerful. It was neat. Actually, I published both of these on GitHub because you can just do that. And I just had a real cheap, actually the CCP connection and the CCP connection are actually domain names that were available and they're really cheap. So I just bought those for a year. So I published those, and that was really fun to do all that stuff. But I didn't use a front-end framework here. And I think I'm kind of glad I did and kind of not glad I did. I also didn't use like something like Bootstrap on the CSS version. And again, I'm glad I did, but I think it was nice to do once like that to see what CSS is like and see how DOM manipulation works with just vanilla JavaScript. That was cool. I liked that. The only thing is that after knowing that, you just kind of should jump into libraries and frameworks because everybody's using them. And a lot of people that are hiring are going to want you to have framework experience if you're going to be a front-end developer. So while that was kind of cool to do for a hot second, anything moving forward, you'll see in a little bit, I'm using a framework and I'm pulling libraries and stuff like that because those are just things that you need to know. Michael, did you have your hand up or were you going to say something? I didn't know if maybe your hand was raised. No? Okay. Sorry about that. So anyway, so I did that. That was a fun project. Then I went, after I finished the boot camp, I jumped in and built the MVP. I used .NET MVC, and this is where I really started leveraging frameworks because it's just me and I wanted to get it done in 10 weeks. So I did .NET framework, MVC style, model view controller. That was the architecture design. So it's all in .NET. It's all right there from, and I actually used Entity Framework, which is like an ORM, an object relation mapper that kind of basically manages your entire database. I did code first, so I wrote code and it just did all the database stuff. And I mean, I had mixed feelings about that. It was powerful, super fast, but it did some like not best practice SQL stuff. So my next iteration, I kind of addressed that. And then I also used their authentication that was built in their Microsoft identity. So I built it, it went real quick because I leveraged all those things. I used Bootstrap for pretty much all the styling, other than just some like minor tweaking. So it was really quick to production. But I learned a lot of stuff and maybe how I might do some stuff differently. So the next iteration was, again, everything was one. It was kind of cool because you could get everything done really quick. The problem was I felt like everything was now coupled, tightly coupled, right? At least I felt like it was. So, you know, this idea in programming, especially object-oriented programming, is that you loosely couple all of your pieces, right? So they don't really need to know what's happening inside the other one. They just communicate and they both do their job. Well, that didn't really happen because you know, leveraged this powerful framework over here. And I felt like it would be cool if I could build kind of that more microservice or API architecture with my application. Of course, that adds a lot of complexity to the application, and also development time and development becomes a lot more tedious. So I just did a proof of concept rather than just rebuild the MVP, and I used a .NET Core backend, and I have SQL SQL servers, my database. I built it in SQL, and I built stored procedures. I access those through the API backend, and that API backend then will connect to that using Dapper, which is a lighter weight micro ORM, and it doesn't really mess with the database at all. It just pulls it pretty much as it needs to pull it. So that's how I gathered that. I set everything up to an API endpoint, and then I can consume that with an Angular front end. So I would start as like, I'm going to use Angular as my front end framework and learn TypeScript and build that. And so you can kind of see a screenshot of that right now. That's actually almost done. It's a proof of concept, so it's not the full featured website. But it is just, you know, has the ability to send in display requests in the table as well as create new requests, all using kind of that API model. So it's really neat. I love the architecture, a lot of learning to do there because I never had done Angular or TypeScript or anything like that, but it's really cool. And then the next project I might be working on is a mobile app. If I do that, I'm going to use a progressive web app just because I'm a web developer. And so it's a much less of a learning curve to learn about service workers than it is to learn about building native apps in Swift or even using something like Xamarin. So, I mean, I'm throwing about a lot of words here, but the whole point is that, you know, I iterated through this thing and it was pretty much at the point where I had the MVP done. Like literally, I think I finished it up and my friend texted me that this job was available and I called the guy and we talked about it. And I really do think it helped massively in getting the job. So, yeah. Anyway, if does anybody have any questions? I've been kind of like talking a lot. Does anybody have anything at this point in time? We're almost done, I promise. Okay. All right. So your project. So what kind of stuff might you be doing? Nothing super crazy here. I mean, this isn't Svengali stuff. This is just just identifying the problem that you want to solve, the platform that you want to use the application, that kind of ties into the problem a little bit, and then the stack you want to use. And those are just kind of fun decisions to make, I think. The problem, so like maybe you work somewhere like I did and you see a problem that maybe a piece of technology could solve. Or maybe at your house you see some stuff. I mean, there's all kinds of, so many realms and fields and subfields within software development. Or ask a friend. That last mobile app thing that I was telling you about, that's actually my wife's idea. I didn't even come up with it. So people have ideas out there, maybe some ideas that they want to build and they don't know how to, and you can kind of provide that solution to them. Kind of determine the platform, what makes most sense. It's really gonna be the use case. A web app made sense for me because I have parents, counselors, advisors, everybody using different software in different literally physical domains. What's the best place to have everybody come together on the web? Everybody can just log into a URL and do what they need to do. Is it gonna be a mobile app? Is it gonna be games? I think game development would be something that'd be really neat. I personally am not probably gonna do much with it, but I've watched some like YouTube videos and I think it's pretty cool, some of the stuff that those guys can do. And then so just like the stack, some common stuff that you'll see when you're looking into these, Unity is written in C#, one of my favorite languages. And that's a game engine. And then Unreal Engine is C++, which I hear is a beast of a language to work with, but I think Unreal has a lot of GUI stuff that you can use. And then PyGames has some Python games, some quick ones. I heard of somebody talking the other day about teaching their kid how to do this. So that's kind of cool if you have kids and you want to introduce them to coding. Pygame might be a really good place to start. Mobile apps, huge area, right? You've got native iOS stuff with Swift, native Android with Kotlin. Xamarin is written in C#, and it actually can be loaded onto both. I think you can do about 90% of the app or 95% with C#, but then you have to use a little bit of native language like Swift and Kotlin just to kind of tie all those API endpoints in probably. And you can launch a native application using essentially one language, 1.25, right? And then there's hybrid, such as JavaScript. There's like React Native, so you can build like an actual hybrid app. It works like a native app, but it's written in something like JavaScript. If you're already a front-end developer, I'm sure that could be extremely appealing. And then, like I said earlier, the progressive web app, it's like a web app. It can function the same way it does. It just needs to be able to work offline, and you can actually build a launcher that they load onto their mobile device, and it kind of works like they think that they're launching an actual native app. They click a little icon and it loads, and it doesn't show the URL, and it works offline. So like, oh, cool. If you build it right, they don't even know it's not a native app. But it is actually, and that's a cheaper development. The big push for it is it's just cheaper for a lot of companies, especially startups, to design and implement their products. And then web, that's the one I'm more familiar with. There's all kinds of real classic stacks like the Mean, MERN, and LAMP. Don't ask me what those all mean. I don't remember that right off the top of my head. I know some of those, but I use more of the C#, the Microsoft ecosystem. So I use .NET, going into Angular a little bit, and I use SQL Server which is a Microsoft product as well. And then I host it all on Azure. So I'm again using another Microsoft hosting platform, but you could use all kinds of other hosting software out there like AWS, Google Cloud, things like that, or even some cheaper options. And you can just mix and match whatever kind of builds your app and whatever works. A lot of them are becoming more cross-platform these days. So you have a lot of flexibility there. And if you need more ideas, Google it, like everything else we do in coding, right? If you just ever in question, just Google it and you'll probably find the answer. So credits to this, template that I totally stole online. I didn't steal it, but I used it online, and I want to give them credit for this slideshow. So any questions now? And like I said, you can connect with me on LinkedIn. I'd love to help anybody out however I can. If you're looking for a job and you need help, or if you're wondering about other stuff, I'll do whatever I can. But any questions?
You can either unmute yourself or you can just chat in the chat box, whatever you're comfortable with.
I know I went through that pretty quick, but I felt like a lot of it was pretty high level, kind of generic advice, so I didn't want to spend too much time on any one thing. It wasn't as technical as some of them can be. If you do have technical questions and I can try to answer them, I'll do my best. I only know what I know, and I've only been doing it for so long, but I'll do whatever I can, or at least direct you to some resources that I've used that have been extremely helpful.
Looks like there are some questions.
Yeah. Okay. Did you work on the project solo? I did. And that's actually a really good point. I think it would be super cool if you could kind of partner up with somebody and do this. I did this all by myself, but especially as I worked into like that Angular, that little bit more of that microservice API architecture, it might be kind of nice to have some people have like maybe a front end person or even a back end person, a database person. That'd be kind of cool. Maybe a little overpowered for this particular use case, but I think it would be neat to work with people. I think pretty much anytime you do develop and work anywhere, you're going to be working with people, so that would be kind of neat. I know the live projects at Tech Academy have you working with people, which is fantastic. So I mean, to be the blind leading the blind if you're both new, but if I can do it by myself, I'm sure two brains are better than one, and you could figure it out with somebody else. Some information. Okay. So what kind of information are you looking for, John? I'll send you whatever I can, my man. Just let me know. And then databases. So I don't know. I know that I used database. I know they actually do have a database course in the Tech Academy. I'm not sure, Queenie, if that's your question, but the databases, they do have a whole SQL course, a database course and they actually have a computer or a data science course as well in the Tech Academy. So you can learn a lot of that stuff. And so I really did enjoy that. It was one of my favorite courses. Databases can get pretty deep pretty fast. But yeah, for my job, we do databases. We use currently SQL Server, Microsoft SQL Server. So that's kind of cool that I use that for my side project because it's what we're using actually. And it's very database heavy. He does keep stuff pretty separated. So there's a lot of stored procedures doing a lot of powerful things. I mean, he's dealing with a lot of data, like just like tens of thousands of orders, and he's aggregating everything, moving it into document databases and then into SQL. So I've actually gotten to work just a tiny bit with document databases as well, using NoSQL as well as SQL stuff. So it's pretty neat. So more information. Okay, yeah, thank you for sharing that for John. Somebody has raised their hand.
Oh yeah, that was me.
Yeah, go ahead. Yeah.
So I do kind of have two general questions. The first one being, aside from building like your own side projects, did you other do things like freelance or contribute to open source?
I have
helped you get to
yeah,
your first job?
That's a great question. I think those are very viable options. I've looked into both of them, more the freelance than anything. Getting it is kind of tough at first because some of those freelance sites they got a lot of competition there, and getting your name out there can be kind of tough, but I think it can be a great way to get some experience. And then open source as well. I have not done that yet, but it's been recommended a few times to check that out. Part of it is just time for me. I was between working my full-time job and the Tech Academy and the side project, I was pretty busy. And then I got pretty fortunate how quickly I got this job. I mean, I think it was only 10 weeks after I graduated from the Tech Academy that I was interviewing with this place. So everything just happened really fast. But I do think that those are all very good ideas, actually. Okay, John's asking, yeah, the coding boot camp is, so the only other languages taught in data science. So yeah, if you go to the, actually I would encourage you, John, to look at that link that was shared for the Tech Academy. And even if you don't want to go there, that's fine. They have a lot of awesome videos that explain their program and the languages they teach. I felt it's one of the reasons I really went through with it and went ahead and bit that bullet, because I thought that Eric Gross's films introducing everything were fantastic, kind of give me a sense of what I was going to learn in the boot camp and what kind of skills I was going to get. And that was a really great place to start.
Yeah, they really teach you the fundamentals from like the very beginning, which is, I think, really important to know as a software developer in general. So I put the link if anyone wants to check out the boot camps.
Yeah, and if you do have more specific questions about anything, again, you can message me on LinkedIn or whatever. That'd be great too. And I can help you follow up with that. But I thought the Tech Academy did a great job. And I did like how they started off with that. They did like a computer science course, and I thought that was great. Give you a high level overview of how computers work, because your work, that's all you're doing when you're coding, is you're just telling the computer what you want it to do. And so I thought that was really, really helpful. Any other questions? Thank you for sharing that.
All right. So it looks like there are no other questions.
All right.
So thank you so much for being here, and thanks for that awesome presentation. I definitely personally learned a lot from just your side project and just the process of what aspects you have to like put into work and all of that. So thank you. And if anybody wants to watch the recording later, we also put it in our YouTube channel, and I can definitely put that link as well in the chat box.
Yeah. Awesome. Thank you, guys. Yeah, thank you all for joining me and listening to me go on for 30 minutes. And like I said, I encourage you to research this stuff more and let me know if you have any questions at all. I'd be more than happy to help any of you all out. So
Awesome. Thank you so much.